So I know that a lot of people are keen on being their own boss. The freedom, the flexibility, the potential for growth. I've been doing it myself for a while now, and yeah, it is great, but it is also extremely challenging. So I thought in today's video, I'll be sharing both sides of the coin from my experience so far. Let's get to it. First, some quick context. I used to work the corporate life as well from 2018 to 2023. Now that I think about it, it's actually not that long. I left after almost exactly 5 years working a corporate job. So I decided to make the jump back then in 2023, and right now I'm doing two things, and it's kind of like on my own, right? So one is I have the content side of my business, which includes this YouTube channel, and I'm also attached to a trading firm, but I'm not an employee. I'm more like a freelancer. One important thing that I do want to mention is that when I decided to quit my job, it wasn't because I hated the job or wasn't because I hated corporate. I actually kind of liked my job. The reason I did this was because I wanted to see how far I could go, how far I could push myself doing my own thing. The reason I mention this is that I know a lot of people try to, pursue self-employment because they hate their jobs. I honestly think it's difficult, trying to run away from that, because I'll explain more later in this video. There are a lot of challenges and downsides that comes with being self-employed as well. Anyway, it's been just over 2 years since I started doing this. I think I started in September of 2023. So I'll be sharing why I like it so much and also why it is so challenging. The first big win, it is definitely the flexibility and the freedom I get. I get to choose what I work on, I get to choose when I work, kind of, and I also get to choose who I want to work with. This isn't the main reason that I decided to pursue self-employment. I know a lot of people love the freedom and flexibility. It's not my main reason, but it is a very nice perk, of course. So with my trading, there are definitely market hours I have to follow. I can't trade something if the market's closed, right? I don't have that kind of flexibility, but it's more of the freedom in the sense where if I wasn't feeling well, or if there's something else on, right? If I'm not in the right mind frame to actually trade, then I can just decide to not trade. And now on my content side, it is fully flexible. I can work at night, I can work on the weekends, and I can work, even during my trading hours if things are quiet. But the more important aspect of flexibility, to me at least, is that I can decide where I want to work. So most of the times I still go to office. I know, boring, right? I'm self-employed, I can do whatever I want, but I still go to office. That's just a preference. But I could work from home. I could even work from a driving range if I wanted to. And I feel like this is the perk where I can't really give up anymore if I were to go back to corporate in the future, let's say, or if I'm weighing between, continue being self-employed or going back to work. Because I'm thinking about the future where if I want to start a family, it would be nice to be able to stay home more often while still being able to do my work, right? So basically, there's no boss, there's no bureaucracy. I'm pretty much fully in control of the work that I want to do. But here's the catch. When you remove all these structures so you can get the freedom that you want, it also means that pretty much everything depends on you. I mean, this is kind of what we want, right? But it is also kind of exhausting. Every day, or not every day, but every once in a while, I need to decide, or I need to think of what to work on, what to prioritize, and all these things will have a direct impact on my business. There are times where I feel on top of the world and I make up all of these plans about how I'm going to be the best out there, but there are also times where, I just feel lazy and I just don't feel like doing anything. I know I said that, this is a perk, right? This is a flexibility where I can decide when I want to take a break. I can do it whenever I want to, but I know that I still have to be careful about this because, taking small breaks here, small breaks there, it could easily spiral into, a longer term period of, unproductivity or whatever it is. And the thing is, who's going to keep me accountable for all of these things? There is no boss, there is no colleague who's going to make sure that I do the work that I need to do. So at the end of the day, like I said, it's completely up to me to be disciplined enough to stick to all these things, even when I don't feel like it. Then there's a part of working hours, right? I can work in the morning, I can work at night, I can work on Mondays, I can work on Saturdays. It's completely up to me. It sounds cool, right? But sometimes when things get a bit hectic, right? So let's say when there is a content deal with a deadline, but also at the same time, the markets are going crazy and now I have also, social commitments and stuff like that. I'm kind of forced to sacrifice some things to make sure that I get my work done. So yeah, you do get the flexibility, but I think some of you guys might have heard this before from people running businesses. It almost feels like you're giving up a 9 to 5 so you can work pretty much 24/7. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but yeah, you do work pretty odd hours sometimes. And that's when you realize, right, all the benefits that you have, they're great, but you also need to make sure that you do the work. It comes with, accountability, responsibility, self-discipline, and it can get quite exhausting sometimes. Anyway, freedom is one thing, but the main reason that I decided to go down this path is that my earnings potential would be pretty much unlimited, right? It's completely up to me. That's exactly what I was looking for. And the growth can be insanely fast as well. There are no promotion cycles. I don't have to wait and see next year if I'm going to get a salary raise. It's all completely up to me. If I do well today, I would get rewarded almost immediately. And I know that whatever the results are, it's always within my control. There are very minimal external factors, right? Back in corporate, there were a lot of other things in play. Even if I was doing well at work, there were other things like, does my boss like me? And more importantly, is the company doing well? Because if the company is not doing well, it's extremely hard for you to get, big salary jumps or even promotions. So yeah, there are a lot of other factors that contribute to the final decision of whether you're going to get promoted or not. Whereas being self-employed, there's no such thing, it's completely up to me. And I like this, I almost considered, before I quit my job to do this, I almost considered doing sales because, it is a similar concept. And this is exactly what I'm looking for. I know that if I can lock in and I can improve quickly, I will see the results. And for what I do, there's really no ceiling, right? There's no maximum amount of money that I can earn. It's almost like a you eat what you kill kind of thing. And sometimes it even feels like a game to me, right? Of course, earning more money, having more money is always a nice thing, but at certain times, I just kind of want to see how far I can push myself. Not just in terms of earnings potential, but in terms of self-growth as well. But the flip side of things is pretty obvious. If I don't do well, then things will kind of suck, right? I don't have any other colleagues. I don't have a boss that can help me get out of this rut. There is no HR, there's no finance, there's no marketing team. It's pretty much a one-man show. If I decide to take some time off, right? Let's say I want to go on holiday, or even when I'm sick, things will actually slow down, right? I know a lot of people think that when you run a business, it can be pretty hands-off. It's almost like a passive stream of income. But, the reality is, especially for my line of work, it is very much an active source of income. And even if you were to do let's say a Shopee business where eventually it gets so big and you just hire people to run everything, at the start, you will have to put the work in. Any day off that you take is pretty much, less money going into your pocket. And even when things are going well and I'm making money, the fact of the matter is when you run a business, your income will always be sort of inconsistent or it'll be unstable. There is no fixed paycheck waiting for me at the end of every month. Sometimes when things suck, you can even go a full month without any income, right? Whereas if you were to work a full-time job, if you were to work the corporate life, even if you're performing extremely poorly, let's say you're having a tough time, you will still get your salary at the end of every month. So that is the key difference here. And because I'm trading, a bad month doesn't mean that it stops at me making zero money. There is a very real chance that I could even lose money, right? So if you guys decide to do this, it is pretty much going full risk on. You will give up the stability of, a fixed paycheck every single month. But the benefit of it is that if you do well, the earnings potential is pretty much unlimited and it can grow really, really quickly. And then finally, there is the aspect of feeling fulfilled with my work. So personally, I think this is maybe a millennial thing. I want to feel fulfillment from my work, right? I'm not just there to collect a paycheck. Of course, yes, the most important thing about a job is the salary. I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, I need to make sure that the work that I do actually means something to me. I don't want to do something mundane or boring and it means nothing to me, even if they're going to pay me like 20, 30,000 ringgit a month. That is not my main priority. Both things have to be true. And being self-employed, working a lot on my own, I know that every win, it just feels a little bit sweeter because I know that I did it. And that gives me a lot of fulfillment when it comes to my work. Back then in my corporate life, I was working in marketing. So for example, if there was a campaign, right? Let's say there's a new product launch. Yes, of course, I would be involved. And if the whole thing is a success, I can't really say that I did it, right? There is the product team, there is a sales team, there is the marketing team. So there are a lot of people collectively involved to get this thing to become a success. And it's not a bad thing, of course. It is good for all these different teams working collectively to achieve, a single goal. But it's very hard for me to know how much my contribution was worth. And I really wanted to know that. I wanted to know how important was the work I was doing. Did I do well? Could I have done better? It's very hard because there's just so many different moving parts. So right now, it no longer feels like I'm just a cog in a machine where I'm just a part of everything, because everything falls back down to me now. So yeah, like I said, every win that I get, every success that I achieve, it just feels a lot more fulfilling. Having said that, doing this, it can get pretty lonely. I think for me, it's still pretty okay, because at my trading job, I still go to office. There are other traders there as well. But at the end of the day, everyone is still trading for themselves and everyone's just managing their own book. There is no real team at play. So when things are tough, right? Let's say business is not so good, my trading is not performing so well, there's no one really for me to lean on. Of course, I could speak to my other trader friends, but I know that at the end of the day, it's only up to me to claw myself out of it, right? I can't ask someone to help me trade so that my P&L becomes positive. It is always going to be somewhat of a solo journey. And because most of my friends and family, they work normal corporate jobs, it's hard for them to understand the struggles I go through because our problems are not the same. Of course, people working the corporate life, I know there are issues as well. I've been through it myself, right? You could have bad colleagues, you could have an annoying boss, and I don't really have that right now. So nowadays, whenever I have any issues with my business, let's say content is not doing so well or trading is very negative, I pretty much just have to deal with it on my own. So yeah, quitting my job and going the self-employment route is both the best, but also the most difficult thing that I've done with my career so far. Do I regret it? Nope. I would make the exact same decision every single time. But I could only be saying this because things have been going pretty well for me. Maybe if things weren't going as well, then the content of this video could be very, very different. After all, there is a lot of luck involved. So if you're thinking about doing this yourself, just remember that freedom doesn't come for free. It comes with a lot of uncertainty, but at the same time, there is an unlimited potential for earning and growth. I know that this is not for everyone, and that's completely fine. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give me a huge thumbs up if you did, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.